Hello, everyone. This is Andy Krutzinger, and welcome to another rousing edition of Justin Bieber Live. And today we are counting down Justin Bieber's top 10 girlfriends. That's right. We're doing. Sorry, that's my other show. This is Wednesday. This is. We're taping Thursday's Prep Sports Live. I apologize. Prep Sports Live, Prep Sports Plus, presented by Fairway. Hunter Muller's here. Apologize for the early confusion. Oh, say what's up again, Hunter. I didn't hear it.
What's up?
What is up? We're here to talk some sports. Shout out to my cousin's business for getting me this hat because my hot water's out, so I couldn't put my hair just as perfect as it normally is. Little.
That's no good.
We're talking a little wrestling. We're talking a little basketball. We're talking a little bowling. And we're going to start with a little wrestling, Hunter. And
it was an exciting weekend.
Yes. Where were you on Saturday night?
Well, I was over in Des Moines.
Ooh, there's some stuff happening
for a little state finals wrestling action.
Tell me about your experience.
Well, we had a couple kids wrestling on Saturday afternoon, late afternoon, and into the evening. Well, basically Saturday night for the state finals. Couple kids there, and then we had 6 kids end up on the podium. So 6 kids got represented in one way, or another on Saturday night at the SAA state championships there in Des Moines. So, we talked about early in the season, us having some pretty highly ranked kids, and obviously it showed Saturday night there at Wells Fargo Arena.
Heck yeah, I was able to watch a little bit on the Sportsnet. Coming into it, we had two people in the finals. I think last week we talked about how we had a lot of kids that had a shot at ending up on the podium. We did have a lot of kids on the podium. You got to talk to, I believe, all of them, but we had 2 in the finals.
Yep.
A couple of
Both
Waco Warriors. Yep. Tell me, and 2 of the better matches of the night for sure. Tell me what you saw in those.
Yeah. Well, first off, obviously, I got to mention, did have a state champion. A little bit of redemption for Waco's Loudon Housingay at 190. He ends up as the Class 1A, 190-pound state champion. Obviously, had a tough loss last year in the state championship, so hence the redemption for him. And obviously, you mentioned it was a great match. He finishes the season perfect, 42-0. Obviously, number 1 seed coming into it. Wrestled against Wilton's Gatlin Rogers in the final. So you can kind of consider that a little Southeast Iowa.
Little bit.
Southeast
We
Iowa
do a little bit of that.
I'd say Wilton's pretty close.
Yeah.
But it was great kind of talking to him. It's kind of been a tough road for Housingay. He went to the state tournament all 4 years. I kind of mentioned this in the story, but first 2 of those years ended with season-ending injuries. Tore up his knee his freshman year, and then obviously he got slammed pretty hard his sophomore year. Got a concussion and couldn't continue, so he had to medically forfeit. And I believe he won 1 match, and he was like a lower seed then, and he was wrestling pretty good, and that was kind of the early on we knew that he was going to be a good wrestler, and obviously he proved it. But in that championship match, Housingay took the early 3-0 lead on a takedown over Rogers, but Rogers came kind of skyrocketing back. He notched back-to-back escapes from the down position in the second period to make it 3-2. Then Rogers got a takedown of his own to put Housingay down 3-5 late in the second period. Both wrestlers escaped once more, made it 4-6 in favor of Rogers. And then things got really interesting because obviously at that point Housingay basically needs a takedown to win it. So with about 34 seconds left, you could see Housingay kind of look over at the clock, and it's like, oh no, he's got to make a move now. And about 10 seconds goes by, and Housingay hits him with a shrug, Something he mentioned that he's used all 4 years. He said it's always been there, so why wouldn't it be there again? And it worked with about 20 seconds left on the clock. Housengate got to Rogers' back to get the 3 points, and then he was able to basically hold on in those final 20 seconds to win it 7-6. So 7-6 decision, and Waco's Loudon Housengate is our lone state champion this season. He becomes the fourth state champion in Waco history, first since Eric Davis in 2005. And it's also the first state champion for Waco head coach Seth Pugh, and obviously Pugh a little success in his high school career as well. Obviously, he wrestled at UNI, I believe. He was a state champion for Columbus back in 2006. So, he talked a little bit after the match, just obviously talking about Housengate being really, great kid, coachable kid, always comes in the room and helps his teammates like that. So, one more you can say, pretty exciting match and a great ending to a pretty successful career for Housengate there.
Yeah, for sure. And so it was mass confusion when I was watching it on the Sportsnet because, the Sportsnet guys have 3 matches that they're calling at the same time. Housengate was the last to finish up, but they were confused with the record, and so one of them was like, "Ah, man, this is going to be a tough for Housengate because this is going to be his only loss of the year, second straight year. He's going to lose in the state championship." And then the other guy, there was like a pause, and the other guy's like, "It's like, wait, I think he's winning," and the score clearly said 7-6. And so the call, if you go back to the Sportsnet, the call on it is horrible because they were so confused, and then they apologized to the entire Housengate family for this.
Oh my gosh!
Because I was in there like, what? Like the score says 7-6, and I was watching the whole thing, so I was like, I'm pretty sure it's 7-6.
You're like, what is happening?
I was like, there's no reason he'd be holding on to him on the side of the mat like he is if he's losing, and so it was funny. And then that was cool to see Ladden kind of collapse to the mat and got emotional there, and so that was cool. I was there last year when he fell in the championship. Last year I went through 3 championships. I went 0 for 3. Our Union area did, so you had a more exciting night, at least with that big win.
Yeah, and it was definitely exciting to see, especially the reaction of him jumping, and he kind of leapt in Coach Pugh's arms afterwards. It's always kind of cool to see the celebrations.
Yeah.
Talking about Waco, you mentioned, I guess we can just jump right into the other 2. Obviously, Waco took 3 to the tournament, 2 including, I'm not including Housengate, but all 3 make the podium. Outstanding, spectacular season for our next wrestler here. Actually, the second highest placer out of all our other wrestlers, Ian Mays, freshman, put together as I mentioned, stellar season for his first year in high school. He gets to the state finals. He was the other wrestler that we were there to watch. So I had quite a little gap. I went from the very first match of the tournament to the third to last match.
Yeah, 106 to 190.
Yeah, but he was wrestling at 106, 37-4 is his record. Really another great match. Needed overtime to decide a winner in this one. He was wrestling against Don Bosco's Caden Belinsky, which, if you know anything about Don Bosco wrestling, absolutely loaded. I believe the UNI's head coach, his 2 sons wrestle for Don Bosco. They're really good, but ended up being a 6-3 loss for Mays. It is Mays, right? That's how you pronounce it, or
I believe so. I heard that's how they were pronouncing it. I think it's Mays. I've heard people. We'll have to ask him if some people go with the my Z. They like.
Yeah, I think it's Mays though.
Yeah,
but anyway, in the finals match there. He fell behind early 3-0, but then secured a takedown himself early in the second period to make it 3-3. Basically, the 2 stayed at threes through the entire third period, and Myers was really kind of able to hold his own. Belinsky, chose the down position for the most part through that third period, and he was able to kind of hold on and control him, not allowing him to get an escape there, and
He had to hang on forever.
Oh man, like he was like on his back, like most of the time. Blinsky for being 106 is you could tell he was pretty strong because he was kind of picking him up. Mays was able to just kind of hang on and bring him down multiple times. Obviously, couldn't get any points out of it, but kudos to him. Freshman. I was talking to him after. I was like, yeah, not a lot of freshmen can say they get to the state finals, so it's pretty cool. But ends up going to overtime, and Mace kind of said he got a little flat-footed and he just couldn't get out of the. Blinsky got to his leg and he really just couldn't get out of it. Regardless, one heck of a season for Mays, but Blinsky gets that takedown in overtime to win it in sudden victory. As I mentioned, 6-3. So, tough loss for him. Obviously, he was pretty devastated about it, but got to give kudos. He's going to be probably. I mean, he's talking about Gage Samo next, but he's going to be the kind of as a sophomore, the leading returner for Waco, and kind of probably going to have to jump into a little leadership role for the Warriors there as the lone returning state qualifier next year.
For sure. By the way, I thought that you mentioned that Belinsky kid. He shot like immediately into the overtime. I thought that was smart of him because Ian had clung on for that whole time to not allow the escape. And then overtime starts really quick, and there's no break. They're like, all right, here's the overtime period. And he immediately went after the leg. So that was smart of him. But yeah, cool for Waco to get 2 championship contenders, first, second, and then third place winner coming up here.
Yep. And then finally for Waco, Gage Samo finishes 6th at 120. Stellar career for Samo there. Wrestled 6 matches at state. First time 3-time place winner in Waco history. Samo is. I believe he finished.
Oh, really?
4th or 6th again last year.
I thought he was 6th last year, but I could look it back up. He had a nice one last year.
I think he was 4th his sophomore year. I thought he was 4th.
He's always been right there.
But 6 matches for the Waco senior. Obviously had a tough loss in the quarterfinals. That kind of bumped him down to the consolation bracket. Had back-to-back wins, and then for a chance to get into the third place match, came up just short. And it was a tough one for him because it was the kid that he beat in the district final. So it's always stings when you beat somebody and then they come back to beat you, and especially on a stage like that. But fell in that in the final match of the tournament. Had to settle for 6. Got back to the 5th place match, fell in the 6th. And they were all pretty close. I mean, he lost that 5th place match 3-0. Lost the for the chance to get back in the 3rd place match, he lost 6-3. So a couple tough losses for him, but 3-time place winner, first in Waco history. Sam has had a really great career for the Warriors there.
Yeah, for sure, and cool for Waco. We kind of knew. We might have said it last week how Waco had 3 kids going, but I would have probably bet on them all making the podium. They had a really strong 3 kids going.
Yeah, they did. And I mentioned we had well, actually, I think I said we have 6. We had 6 total wrestlers on the podium, but we actually had 7 total wrestlers on the podium. Jumping over to a little Fairfield, obviously taking the most wrestlers out of any school we cover. 6 total wrestlers the Trojans took. 2 end up on the podium for the Trojans. That would be, I would say the 2 that have been their strongest wrestlers the past probably 4 years. Kaysen Miller, a senior, and then Kale McCabe is a junior. Kicking off with McCabe because he was a 3rd place finisher for the Trojans. Obviously, you think 3rd place is really, really good, which it is a good finish. But obviously he was pretty bummed after making the state finals last year. He wrestled 113 pounds, and it was tough for him because he wasn't back in that finals match. But obviously a great showing, just one loss, and that loss in the semifinals was his only loss, went 4-1 across his matches. And that loss came against Eddyville, Blakesburg, Fremont, Simon Bettis. Ended up losing 9-4 decision in that one, but finished really strong. Pretty much dominated the rest of his matches.
Yeah, he did.
He won 13-0 and then 7-1. Kind of got a little couple bounce back wins to finish third for the Trojans, but he was proud of how he wrestled. He just said he didn't wrestle his best in that semifinal match, and obviously he's going to have another shot to get back to the finals next year as going to be a senior. So
yeah, another one of our we have some great chances coming back next year.
Yep. And then finally for Fairfield, Kason Miller obviously went to the state tournament all 4 years of his high school career. Kind of looking back at I would say probably out of anybody that we cover, Miller has had sustained success in wrestling, and also probably also the toughest I guess road dealing with injuries out of anybody that we've had as well. Obviously 157 pounder. He finished fourth last year, and obviously last year he got injured in football, and then he came in the last quarter of the season last year. He only wrestled 20 matches.
Yeah, he didn't wrestle.
Got into the state tournament, ended up finishing fourth. And this year he finishes seventh at 157 pounds. Both of those and they were all close matches. Both of those losses ended up being 4-1 decisions. So I mean, a takedown away from sending that thing to overtime. But as I mentioned, far from 100% the last two seasons. He was dealing with a knee injury this year. I think he mentioned hurting his labrum. I think, or right, the labrum's that's your shoulder. That's in your shoulder, but. No, I don't know I think he might have said
he's had a lot of injuries, and that's affected him.
I don't know if he said PCL or something in his knee. I can't remember what he said.
PCL's knee.
But that was his biggest injury this season.
Yeah, and that's affected him he didn't play football this year, but he has football and wrestling, and then he plays baseball. Actually, he's told me that baseball is his favorite one to play, and he had to miss an entire season of baseball after, I think, surgery or something a couple of years ago. So he has really been in and out.
Yeah, and he said the lasting impact of that football injury was still bothering him. But he was he came out, the statement went out of the gate, 17-3 win in his first match. Ended up losing to PCM's Tucker Wheeler, who ended up making the finals in that 4-1 decision there, and then came back with a couple big wins, won 10-1, then won 11-2, and then obviously lost in the final match. Well, actually won the final match. He got back in the seventh place match.
Yeah,
won that one 11-2. He lost 4-1 to Owen Clockney of Carroll to put him down in the seventh place match, and he ended up winning that one 11-2. So ends his career with a win. Obviously, he said he had high expectations. But didn't wrestle his best in that quarterfinals match. Said he should have been in the finals. Definitely very well could have been. But nevertheless, going to state all 4 years, especially with the injuries he had to deal with. Kudos to him for continuing to fight through those and get there in the end. So that is our Fairfield podium finishers.
Place winners. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then finally, we've got Washington's Aaron Boone, and we've got New London's Gage Burden finishing on the podium as well. Two seniors that have definitely been at the top of their respective schools in wrestling. At least the last couple of years. I know Burden was as a freshman had both Lopez's, I guess, through his first couple of years there. Boone's kind of been a guy that we've seen me finish near the top of the podium. We're like, oh, he's gonna be there. Definitely top 5 when it's all said and done, at the end of the season. And Burden's a guy that we've kind of seen just get better and better year in and year out. Boone closes out his high school career with a 50-4 record this season. Third place finish at 132 pounds. And Burden, for him, first time career spot on the podium, takes sixth at 138 and 1A, 43-9 record for him. There was just one loss on Boone's run through the tournament this season. Finished 5-1 in his tournament matches. That one loss was a 10-6 decision in the quarterfinals that knocked him down the consolation bracket. And then after that, just win after win, all the way back into the third place match. So 3 straight years Boone's been to the state tournament for Washington. As for Burden, finishes the tournament with a 4-3 record. He had back-to-back wins, really nice showing through his first 2 matches. A 10-0 major decision, 11-6 decision. First loss came 14-4 major decision to Dustin Van Orth of West Sioux. Bounced back with back-to-back wins, 9-0 and 6-0 decisions. And then he ends the weekend with a loss in the consolation semifinals, and then loses to Van Orth once again in the 5th place match, 9-6 sudden victory. So, that tough 14-4 major decision against Van Orth the first time, and then comes back and sends it to OT. And so a little kind of, still a loss, but a little bounce back action for him. And 4 straight times, all 4 years, Burden made the state tournament. So, not many people do that. So, kudos to those two for going out on the biggest stage as well.
Yeah, that's wrestling's one of those weird sports where it seems like those two have been wrestling for. You have 4 years where they're one. Our top guys that we're watching. So be weird.
Yeah, and Burton talked about he's like, the first 2 years, he made the state. He's like, it wasn't really good enough to win any matches.
Yeah,
and he's like, I really just tried to
get there,
put in the work, and I think we kind of saw that last. He didn't place last year, but I think this year you could tell that definitely going out on a mission to make that podium, and he said that was his main goal. So he did that.
Yeah, that was it was a very good senior class that we are losing as far as our area wrestlers are concerned. Building leaving some spots for maybe some younger kids to jump up and be our new stars. As we mentioned, Mays of Waco and McCabe of Fairfield will be our two big ones to watch for. As far as they'll probably be ranked very, very highly. But we had some. I'll go through the other state wrestling results because we did have some more kids there. Why don't I start out with I'll go team by team based on who had the most. So I'll start out with the Fairfield Trojans. You talked about the 2 that placed. Fairfield actually had 4 returners from last year, and a couple of them had some wins. We'll start down with Dane Burkhart. He was able to go 2-2. Won a couple of matches, including so he lost his first match 4-3 decision after getting a bye. So it's technically championship round 2. Then he won the next 2, including win over a fairly local kid, Joey Glendinning of Notre Dame, a little 34 rivalry there. And he won a 4-2 over Landon Halverson of Humboldt. So he was right on the cusp of getting to that podium round. But he falls to Charlie Campbell of Clarion Goldfield Downs, 11-2, and the consolation round 4, which keeps him just off the podium. Dre Smithberg went 1-2. He had the opposite thing happen where he actually won his second round match, because with the buys, it's hard to tell. It's kind of like when the NCAA tournament has those playing games. They used to call it round 1. It's weird because so many people have buys in round 1. But he goes 1-2. At 215, Burkhart was 175. Zandrick Allison goes 0-2. He technically received a bye in the consolation round, but 0-2 in matches. And then Alex Hudson at 285, same thing, 0-2. So Smithberg and Burkhart were both returners for the Trojans. Why don't I jump to Highland? We haven't talked about Highland. They had 3 kids that ended up going. Landon Bell had a wild ride at 106. He fell in his first match, and then in his second round consolation, he won a crazy 13-10 match to stay in it. Got a pinfall, and then he ended up going against Logan Magnolia's Crosby Yoder in the consolation round 4, and he got tech fault in that. So he was finished just off the podium. Similar for Cash Cole at 113. Man, Highland's got some good lightweight crew there. After losing a really tough first round match, Cole ended up going 2-2, won a couple of consolation matches, couple of pins, ends up getting knocked out by Lucas Oldenkamp of Lake Mills in consolation round 4, which is right there before you get into the rounds that are getting you onto the podium. And then Tyler Pearson wrestled at 132 for the Huskies. He went 0-2. And why don't I jump around? I'm gonna be jumping around like crazy. We'll go. You talked about Burden for New London. Kane Forcine also was representing the Tigers. He ends up going 2-2, and he had a of all the first round matches, he ended up winning 18-15 by sudden victory in his first round match, which is a crazy high scoring back and forth battle. That was over Cain Steve of Nottoway Valley. That's a weird name to pronounce. Falls in his second round, went to the consolation, got a pin in the consolation round, and ends up getting tech falled in the third consolation round. So that's why he was not on the podium. And now really skipping through here. Sigourney Kyoto had 1. Owen Minke goes 1-2. He had a dominant first round match, a tech fall in the first round. Falls by pinfall in his next 2 matches. And then why don't I jump over here to Van Buren County. We actually ended up having 3 1A wrestlers in the 106. One of those was Leo Urak, who won his first match. This is a pretty similar story for a lot of our kids, where they would win their first round match, fall in the next round, and then fall in their first consolation match. That's what happened to Urak. He fell to a Don Bosco kid, an undefeated Don Bosco kid. I actually want to see if Caden Belinsky. There we go. We just mentioned him. Yep. Fell to Caden Belinsky in the second round, and then he fell in his first consolation match. So if my math is right, we've went Van Buren County, we've went Sigourney Kyoto, boom boom. We went the Highland kids 5. Then we have the 7 that you talked about, which is 12. And then we had the other 4 Fairfield kids, which is 16. Am I missing anybody? Did I skip over anybody, Hunter?
I don't think so.
New line. And then we have the 1 New Line kid. No, that makes 17. We ended up having 17 wrestling. Yep. So, yeah. And as we said last week, 17 is not our highest number of kids going, but 7 place winners is pretty impressive for the amount of kids we cover. Yeah. So. Fun little run through wrestling. And we have more to talk about in the sport of basketball. When we come back, we're going to talk a few basketball games. We got some classics finally. Hunter and I did after some double digits in the early, and Hunter's got to sneeze it out. So we will be back very soon.
Introducing Hy-Vee Market Grill, where every meal is a delight. Start your day with our mouthwatering breakfast options and savor flavorful lunches with friends and family. Cap off your day with our delectable dinners. Hy-Vee Market Grill, where every moment is delicious.
The Connie and Amanda team is dedicated to giving back to our community by actively engaging with our clients, businesses, and the public. When it comes to helping you find your next home, investment, or commercial space, the Connie and Amanda team is here for you.
Washington County Hospital and Clinics, providing quality health care that puts you first. Whether during a hospital stay, seeing a primary care provider for wellness exams or sick visits, minor surgery to a total joint replacement, or recovering from an injury, we're here when you need us.
More than you expect for your health care. Washington County Hospital and Clinics.
Welcome back to Southeast Iowa Union's Prep Sports Plus, powered by Fairway Food Stores. It's a little warmer outside. You can actually get there without freezing your butt off in your car, especially if you have a car with no heater like me. And, of course, all the advertisers that you see rolling through the screen here. Most of them have been with us forever. Hunter, we got to talk a little basketball. We had a bunch of boys basketball the last few days, so much to where I forgot what day it was.
Me too.
Multiple times because our normal schedule is all jacked up. But you know what? I figured we'd talk with we'd started out with the Class 3A Sub-State Sticks Tournament, which had our three biggest schools, Mount Pleasant, Washington, and Fairfield. I will do diligence to the Fairfield Trojans because they were the closest of our three teams. Trojans go to Mount Vernon. Fairfield was the number 7 seed. Mount Vernon was the number 2 seed. Mount Vernon had just beaten Washington handily the other day, and they'd beaten Fort Madison by double digits. So this is a good team. Mount Vernon's got some impressive-looking dudes on their team. They look as tall and athletic as like an NAIA college team. But Fairfield goes and really gave them a really good game. This ends up 66-57 Mount Vernon, but it was close the entire time. Trojans had a pretty hot start. They were up, I think, 12-10. They ended up being, at the end of the first quarter, kind of a little bit of a turning point here. It was 12-12. Fairfield had the ball with a chance to take the lead before the first quarter break, which is a pretty big deal, especially in the playoffs, to get a little confidence there. Missed the shot. Mount Vernon kid gets it, takes one dribble, and I don't know what happened, but he threw up a three-quarters court shot. The next thing I knew, he was like flipping over like three of the Fairfield kids. They all converged on him at once, and it looked like a wide receiver coming over the middle and just getting blasted by three defensive backs. So he got 3 free throws. They called the foul on Ethan Bisgard, but as I said, there were like three kids that hit this dude. Made a couple, so it was 14-2 or 14-12 after the first quarter, which I think gave Mount Vernon a little bit of an up. They led 35-25 at halftime. Then Fairfield came back, cut it down to 7 after 3 quarters. They kept getting it to 5, 6, 7, and you'd think they were just like flirting with cutting it to a 1 possession lead. Eli Zellman was awesome in the first half. Riley Perkins was awesome in the second half. But they could never get that game tied back up. Perkins ended up scoring 28 points. He had 8 3-pointers, including just a wild double teams spin around fadeaway at the end. And then Zellman ends up scoring 17 points, went 8 for 10. And then there was a big drop off. No one else's shot was really falling. Andrew Myers had 5 for the Trojans. The kid that was the toughest to stop was Joseph Briesmeister is his name. Real tall kid, 22 points for Mount Vernon, and he went 10 for 14. So the shooting percentages in this game they both shot over 50%. So it was a really well played game. It felt like Fairfield almost had opportunities where you're like, this should have been like a right down to the buzzer type game. But they just couldn't stop Mount Vernon, especially that kid, from getting right next to the bucket. It seemed like every time it was like, all right, they cut it down to like 6. Here we go. They're going to get a stop here and get it on the other end, and then they would Mount Vernon would wind up at the basket for a layup. So Fairfield, good season from them, 6-16. Which is better than last year. Last year they were a 1-win team. This year they, I said they won 6 games. They won some conference games, 4 conference games compared to 0 for last year. So, and they showed that they were, they're close to Mount Vernon, who is a good enough team that they could be playing in the state tournament. So, but Trojans do lose a few seniors. including Riley Perkins and Luke Consul, and then those are the 2 starters, and Ryan Giberson as well. So they'll have some talent coming back for sure on this team. 3 starters coming back, and we'll see if they can keep building next year. Oh, and then Hunter's talking to somebody. So you know what? Hunter's
dogs are fighting.
Oh, you're talking to your dogs. Yeah. I forget what his dogs are named. One of them's Casey, maybe? And then the other one is, I'm going to ask him. What are the dogs' names?
Well, we have Samantha's mom's dog, and her and Casey were going at it.
Fighting like dogs.
I saw them staring at each other in the corner of my eye. I said, this is not good.
Not ever good. You want to go Washington, or you want me to jump into Mount P?
I can jump into some Wash.
Let's go some Wash. You had boots on the ground in Fort Madison for Washington.
Yep.
Fort Madison. How'd it go?
Yeah. Obviously, Washington and Fort Madison, a pretty good draw if we're looking at distances to travel. I guess for that opening round, obviously these 2 teams, Southeast Conference rivals, so very familiar with each other.
Very.
But on the night, it was definitely Fort Madison's night. And we always talk how it's kind of it's always a tough place to go and play down there in Fort Madison, in their gym. But it was kind of pretty one-sided for the majority of this one. Obviously, there was a slow start for Washington, and Fort Madison was just kind of build an early lead, and Washington could never really get back into it. So a 72-50 loss in the postseason opener against the Bloodhounds for Washington here. Through the first couple minutes, it was a pretty tight one, which is what I kind of expected heading into it. A 3 ball from Logan McDowell, and then Kale Williams too helped the Demons score 5 quick points. But those were the first and last buckets of the opening period for Washington. After the game was tied at 5-5, Fort Madison rattled off 16 straight points at the end of the first quarter. So just like that, Washington found itself down 21-5 after quarter number 1. Continued to battle, though. To open the second frame, the Demons outscored the Bloodhounds 11-8 through nearly 4.5 minutes. All 11 of Washington's points came from Logan McDowell. Obviously, he definitely had the hot hand. He was kind of offensively. He was kind of I don't know how to put it. He was kind of he definitely had the hot hand, but he was kind of the only one that was able to create kind of a good offensive rhythm.
Catalyst. He was the catalyst for the offense.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Obviously, late in the game, there were some easy buckets as they kind of moved the ball up court, because Fort Madison's, they've got some big guys. Washington kind of wanted to run the court against them, not let them get set up in the defense in the half court. But we saw at times they were able to get down court, and Rajon Roth was able to get some easy lay-ins, and Nick Stone and that. But by just the lead was, I guess, too great at that time that they weren't able to get back in it. But as I mentioned, Washington couldn't gain any ground as Fort Madison ended on a 7-4 run. Ended up being a 15-15 second quarter. So Washington was still down 36-20 at halftime. As I mentioned, Fort Madison really excelled inside, and Washington was trying to collapse on the big guys. Well, the inside-out game, really, Fort Madison did to perfection, and they were hitting their shots. So, I mean, that was kind of the biggest thing. They wanted to kind of, maybe give a little bit of leeway to the outside shot, but when Fort Madison's hitting and they got the size, it's tough to kind of deal with that, especially, because Washington's a little bit smaller as it pertains to in the post game when you look at it like that. But from then on out, Fort Madison only extended its lead. It was a 13-2 swing in favor of the Bloodhounds to build a 49-22 advantage. Washington did give up just one more field goal. The rest of the quarter finished on a 13-6 run. But after 3, deficit was still 20 points, 55-35 heading into the fourth. And really just couldn't get any momentum to get back. A 20-point deficit in the postseason, especially against a team that you're pretty close with, that's tough to come back when you're down by that much. But Fort Madison ended up taking that final quarter 17-15 to seal it. But McDolan, his final go, 23 points. Rajon Roth, next highest scorer for Demons with 10. Washington ends its season 9-14. They lose 7 seniors. Obviously, McDole's been kind of the full. He's pretty much been in the starting lineup all 4 years. Connor Layden, Cole Vetter, Luke Scheibel, Seth Shepard, Olivia Hobscheid, and Colby Mullins. All gone for the Demons next season. Obviously, outside of the starting wise, obviously McDole's kind of the main starter that they're going to lose. The rest of those guys came in and gave them real good minutes. So going to be losses for Washington nevertheless. Do return a pretty good core next season as well, though.
Yeah, next season, which should be a pretty competitive SEC. And the other team in that is the Mount Pleasant Panthers, who the story this year for Mount Pleasant has been they haven't gotten a lot of wins. They have shown that they're close to the teams that have been getting wins, and this time they go to Knoxville, third-ranked and top-seeded Knoxville. And the final in this one was 61-39 Knoxville, which is decently close for a 1 versus 8 matchup, but it was actually a lot closer than that because Mount Pleasant played really strong at the beginning of the game. They led after a quarter, 16-14 on a Ryan Helling buzzer beater. They were only down a couple of baskets at halftime, and then in the third quarter was when things started to go south for the Panthers. But they fall on this one, as I said, 61-39. Only got 2 wins on the year. One of those was a big one against Washington, which is their only SEC win. By the way, in this game, Helling, who's just a freshman, scored 10. Isaiah Lang, who's just a freshman, scored 9. He didn't play a lot at the beginning of the year because of injury. So if you're wondering who are the key losses from the Mount Pleasant Panthers, assuming everyone still plays next year, that would be nobody, because this is a 0 senior having team. And so that's good. I mean, for only winning 2 games, the fact that you see that you're only a few baskets away from everybody else, and they competed with everybody in the SEC, maybe not so much Keokuk, but the other ones, they had a couple really close calls against Fairfield, and they're all coming back. So they obviously have a lot of talent on the younger classes there, and should have a pretty solid senior class next year as well. A lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors. So, big for the Panthers to have that talent coming back, but they just couldn't get it. I mean, so many times this year where you're like, if 1 or 2 shots fall there, and it's weird to see them with only 2 wins when we saw them in so many close games this year. So next year the SEC will be pretty fun to watch, but just to catch everybody up on what this bracket looks like now that our 3 teams are gone. Class 3A Sub-State 6, I will be paying attention to these games just out of my own curiosity. But on the 27th, which if you're watching on Thursday, that's today, Knoxville hosts Fort Madison at 7 o'clock and Mount Vernon hosts Keokuk at 7 o'clock. I think those are going to be some pretty close games, and then the winners will meet at a site to be determined on March 3rd to see who goes to state. So fun one there. And then why don't we, since we already have Mount Pleasant on the mind, why don't we talk about what we did in Mount Pleasant last night? Because in Class 2A, the matchup that Hunter and I have been itching for and waiting for, we knew this was going to be the most fun matchup. Shows our big sports brains that we said on this show that Mid-Prairie versus West Burlington was the game we wanted to see. Last night, this is the Class 2A Sub-State 5 semifinal. West Burlington over Mid-Prairie 71-63 in overtime. Hunter, was the fact that it ended up being a 7-point game or an 8-point game really doesn't do it justice at all, because that was a crazy one.
That was I can honestly say that was probably the best game I've seen all year.
Yeah, me too.
That was I think it had pretty much everything that you would want in a basketball game. Like,
It did.
Out of the gates, it was kind of high octane offense. And then it got a little, it kind of slowed down a little bit, got a little defensively, or a little kind of, I guess more defensively is the way to put it. But, and then basically, the way you could put it is the stars showed out late.
They did.
For both sides. The kids that, for West Burlington and for Mid Prairie that have kind of done it for them all season long, came up in the biggest moments. And obviously in overtime, it was, it was just kind of West Burlington doing a little more. I guess, obviously a couple turnovers led to some easy buckets for West Burlington in that overtime. But, they just got took advantage of a couple more possessions that ended up being the pretty much difference in the game. But nevertheless, very exciting postseason matchup.
Yeah, so Mid Prairie had a 9-point lead because of Hudson Ehrenfeld scored 5 points right at the end of the first half, including a buzzer beater, though we weren't even sure if he got it off in time. Buzzer beater 3. It was a 9-point lead, and, West Burlington was the favorite, so you kind of could feel it. You could feel the excitement. They held that lead for so long, and it just seemed like, it's like, oh, they're clinging on here. Mid Prairie did a good job of just taking it right back at West Burlington because West Burlington's a very quick scoring team. Down 2 with the ball in the final seconds. Brady Weber hit a floater. He had 14 points, and 10 of those were in the second half. But those are all in the fourth quarter, right?
Quarter, 10,
when it got to the point where, Bryce Henry had lead them in points with 18, but he was hobbled. We could tell he had banged knees with someone or something.
Early in the game, he was like kind of holding his calf after a layup.
He was.
He hit what I thought was the biggest shot of the night. Well, aside from the Brady Weber floater to basically send it to OT. Obviously, West Burlington got a shot to win the game, but the Bryce Henry 3 in overtime to give them a 1-point lead. I was like, ooh, that was, and he had 2 guys running out at him, and he buried it. I was like, ooh, that's a huge shot.
That was huge. That felt like, oh, here we go, because Mid Prairie tied the game up. And then, you said West Burlington missed a shot, and then Weber technically got a full court shot off that hit the backboard. I don't know if it would have counted, if it would have went in.
I think he didn't get it off in time, but they definitely had a chance. If he kind of got like he had a kind of dribble to the side a little bit, and it kind of slowed him down a little bit, and he wasn't able to kind of get it off in time. But
because West Burlington shot just a little too early but not really because Mid Prairie didn't get a real shot off. But you said Henry. So West Burlington scored. They're up 2 at the beginning of overtime. Henry buried that 3. And then all of a sudden it, West Burlington hit a 3 the other way. That totally changed the way things were going. And then they had that Watkins kid who scored 27, had 29. A steal dunk, 28, 29.
Yeah. The biggest difference in the game was the game plan against Watkins, who's averaging 31 points a game, which I'm pretty sure is leading the state. He had 4 points at halftime, which Mid Prairie did fantastic, kind of forcing him into tough shots. But in the second half, I mean, they were still forcing him into tough shots. He just started hitting them. And I remember you and I looked at each other, and he had 3 people around him in the short corner, and he just buried it. And I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, so I mean, he had 4 points at halftime, scored 17, had 17 basically early fourth quarter, and ended with 29. So I mean, 24 points or 25 points. In the second half, I think that was kind of the difference in the game. Really, just like he got going. So, and it's not like they played bad defense on him either. I mean, obviously,
no, he
had that nasty Euro step. Like they tried to stay in front of him, but he's just like so shifty. He was tough to guard, but.
Yeah, I thought it's weird to say after he scores 29, but I felt like the defensive game plan around him was good.
Yeah,
it looked really early on like, oh, they've got it figured out. But I mean, credit to the other West Burlington kids too, because there were a couple times when he had to give the ball up, and late in that game, West Burlington made some big plays. So they'll move on.
They play Grandview Christian now, which obviously they're ranked, I think top 5. I haven't looked at the Gazette rankings in a little bit, but I'm most positive that Grandview Christian is a top 5 team. But
all team, they got beef with our area because they beat Newland in a couple years ago, back in 1A. And then we didn't have a lot of other close games to close out the season for. I mean, you went to the Winfield game. They fell. You could just read out the final score.
They fell in that one 66-40 to Notre Dame.
Waco had a rough one against Holy Trinity.
Those two teams ended up playing, and Notre Dame ended up beating Holy Trinity in that one. So,
Notre Dame's moving on. We had Hillcrest last night not at Northland. They were at Solon. What was the final in that one, Hunter? That was
that ended up being 65-43 in favor of Northland. So Hillcrest ends its season, which now I guess now Northland will play Notre Dame in the regional final for a chance to go to state. So, one thing I'll say is we kind of talked about this last night. It's like, now that all our teams are gone, it's like we still like try to cheer for, I guess, the Southeast Iowa.
I want to be able to pay attention to. I might go to a sub-state or regional final if it's close by. If we have some, because I'm interested in this 3A. I'm still interested in some of the girls stuff. We had a few girls teams left last check. Highland fell to Springville, a super tough team. Since we last talked, Mount Pleasant had their first round game against Keokuk, a super tough team. And then I was at the Columbus game. Columbus did fall to Danville last week in a really good game. It was at Columbus. Columbus was the higher seed, but Danville, a very tough team, they ended up beating Columbus 53-49. I was in the regional semi, so that was the game that I thought maybe we could get somebody to a regional final in girls. Columbus was up early, but then down 26-20 at half and 37-30 at the end of the third quarter. They're down 10 in the fourth, cut it to 5, had the ball, 2 different chances in the last 3 minutes where they were down 5 with the ball. It looked like if they scored, like this could really be a difference, but they just couldn't hit shots. They were only 7 for 26 from 3-point land. Isabel Rendon scored 16. She had a really good game. Franny Sosa had 14. But I haven't got a final. I have to look at the stat line of Elena Gorley, who is one of our cross-country runners when Danville and New London run together because it's a Danville kid. But she pretty much played flawless every single time. It looked like Columbus was about to take the lead back. She did something good. So good work for Danville. They do have a really tough matchup tonight, Wednesday night, right?
Yeah, I think it's tonight against
happened last night if you're watching this on Thursday.
Yep. Top 5 team in Regina Catholic, right?
Yeah, so good luck there. By the way, if you guys look on Varsity Bound, look at the girls basketball sub-state semis and finals, especially in the 4A and 5A, you're seeing like 40-point games every single time. There have not been a lot of close games. Not exactly the year of parity. But you know what? There was a little parity on the bowling lanes. And when we get back, we're going to talk about what happened with our Mount Pleasant and SK bowlers up there in Waterloo the last couple of days. So stick with us. We'll be back.
Attention Hy-Vee shoppers, introducing Hy-Vee Perks, your ticket to exclusive savings and rewards. Access exclusive perks, prices, earn gas discounts, and unlock special deals. All this for free. Join Hy-Vee Perks today and start saving.
At Seafirst Credit Union, we're all about making connections, like how we connect you with a flexible financing you need to install that all-season room or remodel your kitchen with a home equity line of credit. Connect with Seafirst today and see why together is better.
Bring the kids, share the memories, celebrate 75 years of traditions at the Midwest Old Threshers Reunion. Relive the magic of steam engines, antique cars, and trucks, tractors, gas engines, and horses. Whether it's your first visit or a cherished tradition, you'll enjoy the delicious foods, the thrill of an Old West shootout, and the excitement of nightly grandstand entertainment. For 75 years, this has been the place where memories are made at the 2025 Midwest Old Threshers Reunion, August 28th through September 1st in Mount Pleasant, Iowa. Visit oldthreshers.com for more details.
In the heart of rural Iowa, where community matters most, the connections we make are made to last. Meet KCTC, your hometown internet, phone, and TV provider. At KCTC, we're not just about technology, we're about people. Our dedicated team are your neighbors, committed to bringing you top-tier services right where you live. We believe in giving back to the community that raised us. Experience the power of a real connection with KCTC. Join us in building a stronger, more connected Southeast Iowa.
Hello, everyone. Southeast Iowa Prep Sports Plus, powered by Fairway. I'm going to take you through the bowling results, which are just coming in the last couple of days. Mr. Honda, we didn't have a ton of kids make state bowling, but I will go through. We didn't have any teams. We had some individuals, and let me get the individual scores for Class 2A girls. Now, all these are at Waterloo, Iowa. Obviously Iowa at Cadillac bowling, whatever, extravaganza. Mount Pleasant had two bowlers make it individually, Bethany Drury and Madeline Millard. Millard actually had a higher score than Drury in the qualifier, but Drury ends up representing a little bit better with a 534 for 21st overall. State girls wrestling in 2A. Madeline Millard ends up going 454 for 30th overall. You have to get top 8 to make the tournament, and a lot of those top 8 spots were crowded by the Keokuk girls because Keokuk had 3 girls in it. Didn't win. They got a second place. Actually, Keokuk had 2 girls that played against each other in the very first round, the 2-7 seed. So the best Keokuk girl was Jalen Ketterer, who got second overall. She beat Sophia Rule in the first round, and then Natalie Alberts also made the top 8. So, and then Keokuk won as a team. Keokuk's the by far the best Keokuk girls bowling. Man, it's the place to be. So that was no problem. I'm just going through bowling. That was how they did at the 2A tournament. Class 1A girls bowling, we did have a top 8 qualifier in Jade Montgomery from Sigourney Kyoto. Drops a straight up 600 to get the 7 seed. Fell to Callie Aarons of MMCRU. And I don't remember all those little towns, what they stand for, but falls 249 to 201 in the bracket play. She did win 1 match in the consolations, and then she played in the 5th place match. And check this out, 215 to 213, right down to the stinking wire, right down to the last ball rolling down towards the pins. So she ends up getting 6th place at state. Great run for Jade Montgomery, who is a senior. And then why don't I go ahead and look at the Class 1A individual results to see. She, as I said, 600 in the regular play. You play down to 8. And then Sophie Young, a sophomore for SK, goes 525, which is good enough for, now let me do this here, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18th in Class 1A. And then Sigourney Kyoto did have 1 bowler on the boys' side going in the Class 1A pre-bracket play. He did not make the bracket either. So Montgomery was the only one that did for our area, but Landon Greiner did come very close. Devil's number 666 was his final after his 3 games in the pre-bracket play. He ends up getting 12th, and he was 27 pins away from bracket play. So, yeah, they have 30-something bowlers on each. You have to get top 8, and then they play it up straight tournament style, which is cool. They just started doing that a few years ago, so it's a cool way to do it. But we only had one in bracket play this year, so congratulations to all our state bowlers, and congratulations for Keokuk girls bowling for once again flexing their muscle on all of everyone's teams. So hard to beat those guys when they put those kind of numbers up. But the sad news behind that, Hunter, is we now have no bowlers, we have no basketball players,
Nope.
and we have no wrestlers. We have no winter sports, which means we're getting into the winter sports roundup next week. The NCAA tournament preview coming up, the yearly contest, the absolute war that our viewers go through with each other on the bracket contest every year, and still a lot of basketball coming up.
Yep. Still a lot of great games to watch. Obviously, I always like watching the teams that, if our teams do get knocked out, I always like watching those teams try to just to see where they end up. Like the girls' tournament's obviously going to be first, which that one's always fun to watch. They always have that on YouTube, which shout out to the Girls Association, because they always come. They always make it easy. Not to dog on the Boys Association, but
not to dog on the boys.
Dog on them a little bit.
Yeah, we didn't dog on them when they screwed up the call on Loudon's championship. We were very nice about it because it's an understandable mistake. But let me tell you, when that Iowa High School Sports Network contract is up, I believe it is this summer. So we might be getting some boys back on YouTube. And if I was the Boys Association, I would just be like, yo. First off, can I go on? I don't have a lot of battery on my computer, but I just want a small rant. Iowa Public Television should run every single state tournament game. Nobody is sitting there watching Wildcrats at, noon 30.
My dad would love that. My dad would love that. He's like, he actually called me when I was going to Des Moines for the wrestling. I was like, he's like, that's on Iowa Public Television, right? I said, not anymore.
Yeah, why would you even have Iowa Public Television if you're not going to? But you should have every single game.
Dude, I remember vivid memory was like when I was like in elementary school or like middle school, and I would just like whenever there were state championships on. Like I remember watching like when Jordan Ashton and them won the state title for Mount Pleasant. I remember just turning that on Iowa Public Television and just watching. And now you have to pay money to go back and watch that.
Yeah, you have to pay money to go watch the replays.
That's what I'm saying. What the heck?
Up until I think you can watch the Mount Pleasant games because those are far enough back.
Yeah, maybe like after so many years, but still.
It's like 5 or 6 years. I think we're getting pretty close to where you can watch like the New London and Mount Pleasant games. And anyway, can I just say, you mentioned Jordan Ashton. Anybody who wants a little other basketball watch, I'm a Hannibal LaGrange Trojan. I hated William Woods University for 4 years. Now all of a sudden, all the Iowa Wesleyan kids are playing for William Woods. William Woods top 10 in the NAIA. They are playing in the AMC tournament. If you're watching us on Thursday, I believe it starts tonight. As the 1 seed, they are a top 10 team that's got a lot of Iowa Wesleyan kids. Jordan Ashton from Mount Pleasant and Aiden Ashton, who played for Mount Pleasant, plays for Iowa Wesleyan. Peyton Higgins is a red shirt down there. So William Woods, if you want someone to follow, they'll definitely be in the NIA tournament, whether they win this conference tournament or not. Maybe they'll let Hannibal LaGrange get in also, and then we'll have 2 teams cheer for.
I've got a quick shout out.
Yes,
I've got to shout out myself. I have to shout out my my 1 year former New London classmate. I was a senior; he was a freshman. Sam Lloyd is the assistant coach of Southeast Polk Wrestling. Obviously, record-breaking season for them in the state tournament. Put up the most points by a team ever. Had like 4 state title winners. So, shout out Sam, old Samuel, for his work over there at SEP.
Yeah, we don't talk about the biggest classes 4A, 5A too much, but Southeast Polk, especially in boys sports, Southeast Polk is king. I mean, they are they have risen above the valleys and the dallies of the world in a lot of these sports.
Well, I mean, look at football. What they win their 4th straight title, and they were
Yep.
what was their record? Like 9 and it was like 9 and well, no, because they only play 9 games, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to help you down the railroad track with this one, but I don't know where you're going.
I don't know.
They lost a couple in the regular
they had more than 3 losses. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah. And then they came
in football. I mean,
There,
when you talk about like the Dowlings and them, it's like Southeast Polk.
Southeast Polk is the alphas of 5A
right now, but
they're the alphas. They've proved it. I'll cheer for. I don't know how their girls are doing. I'll go cheer. I like Southeast Polk because I drive by when I'm going to Des Moines, so looks like cool.
I know. That's like the main Des Moines school you drive by.
Yeah. So next week, stick with us. We'll have a little roundup. We'll talk a little like the girls' tournament will be started. Maybe we'll do all that, and then
throw a couple stories in maybe about how that's going, like results or whatever. We can.
Of course, yes. And the newspaper will be full. Don't you guys worry about it. No more local teams. Newspaper will be full of local sports. And remember, everyone, you got to stick with us because the NCAA Tournament Challenge is coming, and it is going to be wild.
It's going to be a tough one.
It's going to be the battle of the century. So we're done for today, but when we see him, Hunter,
we'll see him next week.